We've all driven past an accident and wondered what really happened. Who was at fault? Well, it's almost never as simple as it looks. Today, we're going to unpack a tragic crash that took nearly 2 decades to sort out. And in the process, it completely rewrote the rules for who's responsible on the road.
So let's dive in. This whole story kicks off on a dark highway. It involves a grieving passenger, a big bus company, and a final verdict that just turned the whole idea of blame completely on its head. It really asks a simple but pretty profound question. When things go horribly wrong, who actually pays the price? All right, so before we get into all the courtroom drama, we have to go back to the very beginning, to a dark highway in the early hours of March 16th, 1987, and piece together exactly what went wrong. Okay, so here's the play-by-play. It all starts around 10 p.m. when a cargo truck blows a tire. The driver pulls over to the shoulder. Now he leaves his taillights on, and for a warning signal, he puts a spare tire on the road about 36 feet behind his truck. And that truck just sits there for almost 5 hours, until at 4:45 in the morning, a passenger bus comes barreling down the highway and just smashes right into the back of it. And out of the wreckage of that crash, a huge legal battle is born. A surviving passenger, Pedro Arriesgado, who tragically lost his wife in the accident, decides to sue. He wants justice. For Mr. Arriesgado, the cause was crystal clear. His lawsuit argued that the bus driver was just being reckless, driving way too fast, and failed to show the utmost diligence he was supposed to have to keep his passengers safe. As far as he was concerned, the fault was 100% on the bus.
But you can guess what happened next. The bus company and its driver, they had a completely different story. They fired right back, claiming the real hazard was the truck itself. They said it was parked weirdly with its back end sticking out almost in the middle of the highway, making it an obstacle they just couldn't avoid. And you know what? At first, the courts totally agreed with the passenger. Both the local trial court and the Court of Appeals looked at the case and said, yep, the bus driver was negligent, the bus company is liable. They completely cleared the truck driver of any fault. So case closed, right? Wrong. Not even close. This is where the case gets really fascinating, because we're not talking about two regular cars hitting each other. We're talking about a passenger bus, which in the eyes of the law operates under a very, very special set of rules. And this all comes down to a crucial legal idea called extraordinary diligence. It sounds fancy, but it's a huge deal. This isn't just about being a good driver. The law holds common carriers, like bus companies, to a much higher standard. It demands they act with the utmost diligence of very cautious persons. Basically, they have to do everything humanly possible to keep you safe. Let me put it this way. You and me, driving our cars, we're expected to show reasonable care. The law calls it the diligence of a good father of a family. It's the normal standard. But a bus company? Whoa, the bar is way, way higher. If a passenger gets hurt, the law automatically assumes the company was negligent. The burden is on them to prove they did everything they possibly could to prevent it. So the bus company wasn't about to just accept the verdict. They appealed it all the way to the Supreme Court. And when the highest court in the land took a fresh look at everything, they saw this case very, very differently. First off, the Supreme Court completely agreed that the bus driver was negligent. No question. I mean, he even admitted he saw the stalled truck from 25 meters away. At the speed he claimed he was going, that was more than enough time to just swerve and miss it, especially since the other lane was totally empty. The court basically said there's no way he was going that slow. He had to have been speeding. But here it is. This is the massive twist. The Supreme Court said, hold on a minute. While the bus driver was clearly at fault, so was the truck driver. Why? Because simply leaving a spare tire on the road is not a proper early warning device. The law requires specific devices. And that was the critical detail the lower courts had just completely missed. So if both drivers were negligent, how does the court figure out who pays for the damages? Well, this brings us to another really important legal idea. It's called joint and several liability. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but the concept is actually pretty simple, and it's designed to protect the victim. It basically means that if a bunch of people are responsible for something bad happening, the victim doesn't have to chase each of them down for their share. Nope. The victim can go to any one of the guilty parties and collect the full amount. It's then up to them to figure it out with the other guys later. So here's the bottom line.
The Supreme Court ruled that the truck driver's failure to use a proper warning device created a predictable danger. His negligence was a direct contributor to the accident. He wasn't just some innocent bystander who got hit. His actions helped set the stage for the disaster.
So after 17 long years, can you believe that? 17 years. How did this whole thing finally end? Let's take a look at the final verdict and the powerful lessons this case leaves for every single one of us. In the end, the Supreme Court ordered that the bus owner, the bus driver, the truck owner, and the truck driver were all together liable to pay these damages to Mr. Arriesgado. After a fight that lasted nearly 2 decades, the blame was officially shared. So what does this all mean for us? Well, first, if you're a passenger on a bus, train, whatever, that company has the absolute highest duty to keep you safe. Second, breaking any traffic law, even something that seems small, like not using the right warning sign, can legally make you negligent. And probably most important, an accident isn't always just one person's fault. The law can and it will spread the responsibility around to make sure the victim gets taken care of. And that leaves us with one last thought. This whole case was built on traffic rules from decades ago, rules about speed, about warning devices. The next time you're out on the road, just look around. Are we following those rules any better today? Are our roads really any safer? It's definitely something to think about.